Well, and good evening, everybody. I'm Ann Vandersteel, and welcome to Steel News. We've gone pretty much from the war zone to the twilight zone, and every day is another exciting day. It's some days I'm speechless. In fact, this afternoon I had the opportunity to sit down with a former J6 political prisoner slash hostage, former Green Beret. Jeremy Brown, somebody who was on everybody's tip of their tongue. They talked about Jeremy Brown nonstop, along with many of the J6ers. And as of lately, he's been pretty much ghosted by everybody. And I got 6 hours of time with he and Jennifer Hicks and was really brought up to speed as to what I think is the why. And it's going to come out. We're going to get more of that information out. But in the meantime, it's just really shocking because every time you turn around, when you think things are going to finally get over the goalpost, we're finally going to get a win, it seems as if the goalpost moves further and further away. So welcome, everybody. I know there's a massive news cycle out there, a lot of people streaming tonight, so I appreciate if you have your time with us this evening. Feel free to share it out across all of your platforms. That would be amazing. We're going to be diving tonight into some intertwined crises. Japan, who has been a staunch ally of our country since World War II. For the life of me, sometimes I wonder why, because we certainly didn't treat them very well in the end, but of World War II. But they have come along our side. And of course, they're sitting in a hornet's nest over there, surrounded by the Chinese and some crazy guy with his finger on a button in North Korea, the little dim sum. But they're also going through their own evolution of crisis. They've been in an economic, I would say deflationary depression, recession for a long time. And frankly, their evolving COVID-19 booster policy amid that economic slowdown is echoing a bigger crisis. And it's particularly could be the canary in the coal mine. So we're going to sit down tonight and we're going to look at how those issues echo right here in the United States. We're also going to have a wonderful guest on, Misako Ganaha. She's a friend of mine. She is the wife of very famous war correspondent Michael Yan, who you know. I've worked with him on Operation Burning Edge. Misako and Michael have traveled all over the world together. She's a journalist. She's an activist. She's a very, 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 I call her the Joe Rogan of Japan. She's a voice of conservative Okinawa. And her X Insights, if you go to her timeline, her link to her timeline is in the description box in my Rumble channel. It's Ganaha_Misako. But you can go and find her timeline. She was also tweeted out on my timeline as well. I've tagged her there. You can connect with her there. But we're going to talk, and she's going to really help frame our conversation because Japan's COVID-19 rollout, as of spring of 2024, Japan transitioned from a very special temporary COVID-19 vaccination to an annual booster program for seniors, those 65 years and older, and high-risk individuals aged 60 to 64, along with a partial out-of-pocket costs beginning fall of 2024. And these boosters with Pfizer's BNT 162b2 proved very cost effective in reducing these severe cases, supposedly. But there's a lot more going on because Japan, like we are, is showing signs of vaccine fatigue and, of course, the economic strain of all of it. Their broader booster landscape has reflect tension despite an 80% base vaccination rate. Lingering hesitancy, low trust is all rooted in past public health controversies. And folks, if there's anything we can say about past public health controversies, you have to look no further than what's going on with Pfizer now and their big cover-up of all those thousands of pages of documents that prove they knew how detrimental this was to your health to roll out that COVID shot. But then also Johnson & Johnson, probably the most penalized pharmaceutical company in history. They've paid out more than anybody, I think, and that's probably going to be eclipsed. Maybe not by Pfizer. We'll see what happens here. But they've had multiple shocks over in Japan, GDP dropping significantly. They rebounded modestly in 2021 and 22, but it's now projected to slow down almost another full percent of growth by, over the last year. So they're having serious national debt problems, just like we are. Their national debt, last I think I checked, was 216% of their GDP, one of the highest globally. And of course, the economic jolt from COVID-19, like we had here, only the big box stores stayed open because, of course, they were really only the ones that mattered. Wrecked their economy, wrecked the world economy, and it's created a lot of longstanding issues. So without further ado, I want to introduce Misako Ganaha. She was born in Nago, Okinawa. She's a very multifaceted figure. She's a freelance journalist, a JSDF reservist and a conservative political activist. And she's known for organizing the Citizens and the People's Association for Correcting the Rokyu Shimpo and the Okinawa Times. So she's earned the nickname, which I love because sometimes friends of mine call me this, but she's Okinawa's Joan of Arc. And I just absolutely love that because I think it epitomizes who she really is. She had a huge breakout speech at the tender age of 23, urging support for the relocation of the U.S. Futenma base Japan forward. So anyhow, let me bring her in right now because she is a powerful, powerful woman. Misako, it is great to have you here today. Thank you so much. And it's been a little bit too long of a time since I've actually given you a hug in person. Last time I saw you was down in Panama. We were sweating it up in the jungle. How's it going in Japan?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. And today, the topic that we are going to talk about is very critical. And I hope to share as much accurate information as I can. And I have been interviewing and doing live stream with key scientists and doctors and people who are analyzing the data, raw data in Japan. So I hope this my talk would be beneficial to not only people in Japan, but to people all over the world.
I know it's going to be because I think the vaccine hesitancy has now sort of been the dawn of a new age of people thinking that, perhaps this wasn't so great. I think people are finally starting to talk about it. I have 4 family members, Misako, that are seriously vaccine injured, one neurologically, 2 cancer, and 1 cardiovascularly, had to have open heart surgery. So I've got serious issues in my own family, and we're 5 siblings, and that's, 3 of them and a mother-in-law. That's pretty serious. So, the fact that they're still pushing for boosters, the people I know that took the shots here in the States, Misako, are saying no more to the boosters. I mean, majority of them are like, yeah, no, we're good. I think people don't want to say that they were fooled. They were made a fool of, and their health was, made a mockery of by the very powers that are supposed to be protecting them. So Japan's booster policy right now, how's it tracking so far? What are the trends and the resistance patterns looking like in your country overall?
Yes, so the people who get many times injection, they got like 7th or 8th. But most of the people have stopped after they got 3rd shot, but many people are still getting, that's ongoing. So compared to other countries, Japan, especially government, is still pushing the jab. But because of the journalists who are standing up and confront and to go to the press conference held by Ministry of Health, and they are giving the actual data, and then they are pointing out what they're doing is wrong. So the tone of Japanese government is getting low when they come in front of the media, but what they're actually doing is still pushing.
So are journalists like yourself, are you getting pushback from government for standing up and speaking out against the vaccine?
Not just myself, but yes, a lot of us got censored online. And actually, from this year, starting April, Japanese government implemented a new law. They are saying that they will control the fake news online. So they are implementing laws to even more suppress us even more. So that's the trend in Japan, yes.
So right now we have the Trump administration. So supposedly the censorship has lightened up a bit, and it seems like it's somewhat better on X. I'm not really sure that I can speak to Facebook. We had the Supreme Court here decide they weren't going to hear a landmark case. It went back to the Supreme Court for the 3rd time. It was called Fick versus Facebook, where this gentleman, Jason Fick, who in full transparency has become a good friend of mine because I started covering this story back in 2018. He clearly had all the evidence he needed to have the judiciary across the United States interpret what he thinks is a very good statutory law, Section 230, to prevent platforms like Facebook or X or any LinkedIn or Getter or whatever from actually censoring the the publicist, the user, people like me and you who are publishing on the platform. He really had that whole case sorted. But the Supreme Court decided, nah, they're not going to hear this case. They're going to hear another First Amendment case. But this First Amendment case is about religious freedom. And it originates with a Rastafarian, a Jamaican guy with long dreadlocks who's in prison. And the prison wants to cut his hair off. And he says, no, I have a First Amendment religious right to have these dreadlocks because, that's part of my religious beliefs. Oh. So the Supreme Court opted to listen to a case where if every single person in prison was threatened with their haircuts that are Rastafarians, what are we talking about? A couple thousand people at the best? I don't even think it's that many. But we're now talking versus a freedom of speech for 350 million Americans. So while I think we're going to get better service right now because we have President Trump, the threat of censorship is still there. So I find it interesting that Japan is still heavily censoring. I would have thought at some point they would have come out, or has it gotten worse since they assassinated your previous Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, excuse me.
Yes, a lot of the government policy in Japan has gone far liberal. After Prime Minister Abe was assassinated, that's very clear and super pro-China. That's the direction that we are going. And plus, I think system-wise, Japanese government is like in Japan, unlike US, where you have FOIA request, Freedom of Information request,
right?
We have the same kind of system, but it's not working. And governments say when this is like a critical issue or national security and they don't have to disclose, so they tend to use those excuses. So we cannot get the important information, critical information that we need to. Even congressmen submit the questionnaire or freedom disclosure request to the government, they don't respond.
Really? They just ignore you 100%, completely don't, just act like they didn't get it?
No, I mean, they just say, we cannot provide you information. That's their answer. So it's the same as the ignoring.
Well, having pulled some FOIAs off, particularly on myself, and I've been told, no, we can't tell you anything because your name's still wrapped up in investigation. I understand that, although I've resubmitted my FOIA requests because we have a new administration, and I want to see if they've relaxed on their ability to provide information to me because I was placed on a domestic terror list, and I wanted to know why. Why was my name on this list? So we'll see how they respond, this time around. But I want to bring it back to Japan. 80% of your population is vaccinated. Is that an accurate assessment, or is it higher, lower?
Yes, that's the correct. We say I'm not unvaxxed, so we are the remaining 20%.
Right.
So that's the rough number that we always use.
Okay. And in terms of here in the States, we have the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, VAERS. What do you all use in Japan? Or do you track adverse event reporting?
Yes, our government supposed to track those events. And there is an organization, it's called PMDA. That's the third party that they receive the adverse event report from doctors or hospitals. And so according to those reports, PMDA supposed to consider and discuss whether this medicine is safe or not, but it's not functioning at all because, the back door, the people who are elected to be or selected to be the member for PMDA, they receive money from the pharmaceutical company, and they have a regulation for when it comes to the voting, those members of PMDA, they have to disclose how much money they receive from pharmaceutical company.
Mm-hmm.
And if certain amount, above the certain amount that they receive, then they are not allowed to participate in the voting. But what journalists are finding out is that they say, oh, so-and-so received this amount of money, and they call the name and the actual number of the price. But they say, if everybody here attending agrees that this person can attend voting, then we will let this person vote. So they break the regulation.
Of
That's
course.
that's what's happening.
So it's the same thing that was going on here in the United States. The fox is guarding the hen house. The regulatory agencies that are supposed to oversee the pharmaceutical and medical industry, right, has a bunch of ex CEOs or direct boards of directors or high level employees from those companies working in the agency. And of course, their stock options follow them to the agency because it's on their it's on their P&L, it's part of their financial disclosure. They still have stock in these companies. So what is the incentive as a regulatory agent to punish anybody over an industry when your paycheck is still dependent on how well that industry is doing? There's no incentive. In fact, you're de-incentivized. You're discouraged from ever penalizing people over there. And so, here we had a Supreme Court ruling, the Loper Bright case, which was the Chevron deference, overturning Chevron. So back in the days, courts around the country would defer to agencies and go, well, what would the agency do about this problem? And it didn't matter what the agency was. If there was a problem in an industry that an agency regulated, they would allow the agency to basically make the decision about what should happen to that industry. That was never how it was supposed to be set up. So it sounds to me that we have a similar problem in Japan that we do here in the United States. You've got big corporate government taking the place of the actual people and their choice of who they consent to govern them. Am I accurate in this assessment?
Yes, 100%. Yes, I agree with you. And actually, yesterday, I interviewed one of a congressman in Japan. He is running right now for election that's ongoing. His name is Ryuhei Kawada. When he was, right after he was born, I think within 6 months, he was diagnosed with, how do you say, it's ketsuyu in Japanese. I think it's like if you, for example, cut yourself or get hurt, you cannot stop bleeding. What do you call this in English?
Oh, hemophilia.
Hemophilia. So he need to get injection to make it stop or to have
clot.
better
He's got to
immune.
get clot. He needs to clot.
Yeah. So injection he got was imported from US, and he kept getting it. And at that time, there was a news that those products are not safe. So the companies around the world, except Japan, changed the products, like the hospital changed which one to inject them. But Japanese government and the Japanese pharmaceutical company knew there was a contamination, there was an issue with this injection, but they just let it go. So he got the injection, and now he's the wax injured, basically. And what I wanted to say is that, so he fought the court case, and he actually made government and admit their mistake. But so he sees same thing happening again with this COVID injection. So what you're saying is like a systematic corruption and the situation that is causing this. Even though Japan had been going through so many similar cases, it's happening the same.
So, when you start to draw parallels between the United States and Japan from the COVID perspective, and we'll talk about the economy here in a minute, but are you under the impression that this is completely globally coordinated and that your government has submitted to the global New World Order to facilitate a genocide of Japan and a population sort of replacement? That's happening here?
Yes, I agree. And I think if we don't have that perspective, we won't be able to go through the root cause of what's going on. I think the people, like level by level, the recognition of what they're doing is different, I think. So the minister level, I think they know. But the people who just work for ministry, some people know, some people they don't know. But overall, yes, because at this point, nobody with normal mind cannot miss what's going on. And
right.
Today, I would like to share with you some numbers and chart. And the Japanese government is hiding those numbers from us.
So what do we
So-
have here? What is this? Because part of it's in Japanese, and I know your audience can read it, but I don't think mine can.
Yes, so is it okay if I go? There are 1, 2, 3, 9 slides. So
Go
I would
for it.
like to
Absolutely.
go for number 6 first. This is a number 6. So the chart I'm going to share with you is created by a man. I call himself Japanese James Rogaski.
Okay.
His name is Masamitsu Fujie. Mr. Fujie, he is the one who have been dissecting the numbers that are hidden and officially announced by the government both, and put in a way that we can see objectively. So this chart is the number of the death by each shot. And the date goes back to 1977. And each graph represents each type of injection.
Okay.
So you see this, sorry, I could not, I didn't have enough time to translate in Japanese, but what I want you to see is the one with a super high, tall, light blue stick.
Yep. All the way on the far right.
Yes, that's the death by the COVID vax that are officially recognized by the government. So
And over what? And so that's basically since they rolled out the vaccine in 2020 till today.
yes, 2025 June.
Okay, so
Yes.
but what is this from what time period? 1977 to today. Obviously, the COVID shot didn't come out till end of 2020.
Yes, so
Yeah.
he's trying to show that even though the COVID shot is rolled out, so for only a couple of years, this is the difference compared to the other shot.
Right.
And-
So all the other shots since 1977, the next highest death toll was at the front of the left side of the chart at 42. I can't read which shot that was. It's in Japanese, but DPT 20, MMR 3. Wow. This is incredible. So this is so the highest one next to COVID is 42. So otherwise, COVID has the 1,018 deaths as of June of 2025, and it's only been around for a few years versus the rest of these shots that have been around since the 70s.
Mm-hmm. So what he was trying to say by this chart is that even the government has the number, only using the number that officially announced by the government, we can say this COVID shot is super dangerous.
Yeah.
So that's the graph that he is trying to show. And if we go back to this one, this is the amount of the money Japanese government, Japanese diet passed to pay for the vax injured. Those are officially recognized by the government. And
so can you kind of give us what does that equate to in US dollars? That's yen, I guess, right? 45 million yen, or just a little bit under 40 million yen?
So this is originally the blue line that you see. That is in yen, 360 million yen.
Oof.
That was the original. So $1 equals to 150 yen. That's the easiest exchange rate that I use. Sometimes go 140 or something like that. And then what I want you to see is that the red one, because there are so many injured, and our government is super hesitant to recognize those vax injured. But because there are huge damage done to the people, so they passed another budget to pay for compensation. That is, I need to write it down, but it's 110 times higher than the original budget.
Wow.
So by seeing this, Japanese government clearly recognize how much harm it's been done to Japanese people.
Yep.
But when some congressmen confront Minister of Health, or during the press conference held by Ministry of Health, they say that there are no issue, therefore they can continue vaccination. That's how insane it is.
It is insane. It's totally insane. I've got Nonya in chat right now, and she's saying how everybody's just brainwashed. She says they're nanotech. She also is talking about how underreported all these numbers are, and then she's also lamenting the fact that the USA isn't paying jack to anyone. And we'll see how that's going to turn out, because our court system is so screwed up. But what we need now is people to just continue to bring lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. And frankly, I would encourage people to bring lawsuits into courts of equity and not into the Article 1 courts, where you're going to get stuck, with lawyers, and it's going to take years to get through the system. I mean, you can bring real accountability and you can bring punitive damages more quickly in a court of equity, because that is the people's court. Right? That's our court. And if people don't know what I'm talking about, just go to Chat GPT or Grok or whatever your favorite AI is, and look up courts of equity, and you'll see what I mean. It's one of the reasons in the Big Beautiful Bill, courts of equity were reduced in scope for U.S. citizens. But if people understand what a U.S. citizen is, Masako, they know a U.S. citizen is someone who resides and works in D.C. So it's still very available to American people. We just have to declare it and ask for it. But I digress. So this is shocking to see these numbers in such disparity between previous and current. How is Japan affording this? Because you guys have gone through an economic tidal wave. You've been basically, your money has been swept out to sea. So, how is this slowing economic recovery impacted healthcare and the ability to pay people, for damages?
In Japan, we are living in a tax hell. And so we are poor people living in a rich country. That's the situation.
We know the feeling over here in the States, Masako. It's not any better.
Yes, and Japanese government is considering to raise our sales tax up to 25%. It started from like a small fraction, but like 5%, 8%, now 10%, and food is for 8%. If you eat inside, they charge you 10% sale tax, but if you take home, it's gonna be 8% sale tax. Like they are using all the tricks to make us used to being slave. And yes, that's how they are milking us. That's how this works. And what should I say? It's not shocking, but what tragedy that's happening is, even though Japanese government recognize and decide to pay compensation to the injured ones, they use tax money. So pharmaceutical company, they just make money and they just get away with this. So like even like finding the truth and making them the government recognize what they have done, but what comes next is they're using even more tax money.
Yeah.
So they plan very, very well.
Well, they do the same thing over here, by the way. I mean, they have their own slush funds, so that if members of Congress get caught in some sex scandal, they've taken U.S. tax dollars and, printed dollars from the Federal Reserve that we have to pay interest on, and they've set aside a slush fund to pay hush money to the people who have been harmed by members of Congress. So it's no different. I think it's basically it's the Western world, right? We're all debt slaves, and Japan is caught up in the debt slavery. So I want to get to your financial woes here in a minute, but I want to let you continue down this COVID presentation, because I think when people see what's going on in Japan, we haven't even talked about the self-amplifying RNA vaccine that, our own MAHA group is saying is the next greatest thing since sliced bread. You and Michael have done a lot of interviewing with the very famous Dr. Murakami in Japan, who was sounding the alarm, and you guys did that breaking interview last year about it. Tell my audience, what is a self-amplifying RNA vaccine, and what has been the downstream effects of this vaccine rollout in Japan?
Yes. And to be clear, I want to understand what you said. So MAHA people in US are saying self-amplifying is the best thing?
Oh, yeah, they're excited about it.
Really? Oh my goodness. Okay.
Well, listen, we've added under MAHA, we've added 12 new vaccines that have the mRNA platform to the childhood vaccine schedule. It boggles the mind. It's boggling the mind. They added into the under HHS, Robert Secretary Kennedy has a committee called ACIP. I forget what it stands for. I have to look it up. But this committee they basically completely refreshed all the members of the committee. And one of them they added was Dr. Robert Malone, who is the self-proclaimed inventor of mRNA. I know you know this. They've basically done a flip-flop. They're now talking about mRNA, as the greatest thing since sliced bread. And, they're excited to roll out these new shots. And of course, you remember the press conference President Trump had day one with Sam Altman and Larry Ellison from Oracle talking about, anti-cancer vaccines using these platforms. It's really an AI. And making very specific shots. None of this has ever been tested on humans. In fact, the tests on humans have been basically the COVID pandemic. And look at how bad you just showed us in pictorial on these graphs, just how bad it's been in Japan. We know it's very bad here. The military has incredible data here in the United States on how bad these shots were. So I'm just sitting here trying to figure out what's the logic, unless, of course, the direct logic is they mean to exterminate us. And that's the only thing I can come back to. It makes no sense otherwise.
Oh, yes. The news happening in US that are imported to Japan is very opposite. Like what we hear is that MAHA has been eliminating half the board who are pro-JAV and mRNA, and they're putting new people who are opposing the mRNA. So I thought it was different, but okay. It's very shocking to hear that. So I'd like to show you a chart. This was also created by Masamitsu Fujie, Japanese James Rogaski. And by the way, this book, if you are interested, I really recommend. It's in Japanese, but it's all graph. He made this in a way people can easily print and spread. So he's not intending to make any money. He just wants people to realize what's going on. And it's got all the raw data.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
And next, I would like to show you this one first. No, this one. So this one, the data is from 2024 October to December, the end of December. And on the left side, it says the name of the pharmaceutical company. And this is a chart about the number of side effect report by the COVID injection. Top one is Pfizer, which is 0.17. That is the number that death number by per 100,000.
Okay.
Each 100,000 Pfizer death was 0.17, and next Moderna, that's 0, and the other third one, Daiichi Sankyo, which is 0.98, and the next one is Takeda, it's Novavax, 0.52, and the bottom one is Meiji Seika Pharma. So that's the replicon one. That is 12.87.
Wow.
So he made these numbers from the actual data that were produced by Ministry of Health. So if you just see these numbers, you can clearly see that the number of that death caused by replicon is far bigger than
Right. So
the
Replicon Meiji Seika, that's the Replicon. That's the self-amplifying RNA vaccine compared to the other mRNA shots, correct?
yes.
Wow.
And because let me go to this one. Okay. So those are the actual numbers of the shots that are taken during the same period from October 1st to the end of December. That's last year. And the order is the same: Pfizer, Moderna, Novavax, Daiichi Sankyo, and Meiji Pharma. So the purple one is the Replicon. If you see the number on the left, 15,536, that's the number of the injection that people got. Because of the rollout is very small, and because it's relatively new, but so we need to collect more data and see, and hopefully we cannot collect the data because people don't inject it. But so I need to mention one thing is that because the number of people who got injection is relatively small, we cannot jump to the conclusion, but we can clearly indicate the harm that it's causing. Do you know how I explain?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No. It makes sense, but that's really terrifying, Misako. When you talk about the number of participants in the Replicon shot, yet the numbers were so high, relatively speaking, for adverse events profile. It's, I mean, I would hope that it would get smaller as you added more people into the control group to just have more people who've taken I mean, I don't want any more people to take that shot. So it's a good news, bad news. The good news is not a lot of people took the shot. The bad news is the data you have, I don't want to say it's inconclusive because that's not true, but it's hard to be as conclusive as the other shots, which had hundreds of thousands of participants, and you've got better numbers, right? So, but again, what we took away from your interviews with Dr. Murakami that you and Michael did was that this self-amplifying, this Replicon shot does exactly what the name sounds like. If somebody takes that vaccine, that shot, it replicates and comes onto the person next to them that never took the shot. So it's as if once you're vaccinated, you go around and you vaccinate everybody in your vicinity. You're constantly shedding this, and people are just about as good as vaccinated themselves. So it's almost as if you can't escape it in Japan. Has there been, as far as you know, from the Replicon shot, adverse events to people who lived in the same house as someone who got the shot, but maybe everybody else in the house did not? Are there any sort of data coming out anecdotally or otherwise?
Replicon wise, to say for me, as for now, I have not heard anybody, because people around me don't get shot, and of course no Replicon. So
Yeah.
but a lot of people have an issue with shedding too, but we still need to wait for the information to come. Yes, that's as far as I can tell. And
that shot just seems like if Japan were to go crazy and have an 80% shot, if 80% of the population took that self-amplifying RNA shot, it would be so quick before the rest of the world was infected with it.
Yeah, but because of thanks to people like you who spread this information beforehand, Japanese people didn't take the Replicon one as much as the pharma expected. That's why they threatened us and sent us a warning letter that I need to take down the content, or I need to stop talking about it. And our Congressman Haraguchi is being sued by the Meiji Seika Pharma for speaking up. So clearly, the information battle, we succeeded in telling people the possibility of harm. That's why the number of injection is very low. And I would like to show you one more slide. This
Sure.
one? Yes. So this is the example actual number in one city, and which city, whether sorry, the name of the city is not disclosed, but this is the information that the ordinary citizen went to City Hall and they got the information from the City Hall office. And this is a comparison of Pfizer, which is in light blue, and Meiji Seika Pharma in orange. And it shows that in 70s and 80s and 90s, Pfizer one, for example, in 70s, 2,723 people got injection. And this is all-cause mortality. So out of 2,723, 19 passed away. So the rate of the death is 0.7. That's how this chart is composed. And compared to Meiji Seika Pharma, for example, 70s, 10%, 10 people got injection and 2 people passed away. Or in 80s,
Startling.
Yes, 37 people injected, 3 passed away. And in 90s, 26 people got injection, 6 people passed away. So just narrowing down the age and the period of time, you can clearly see that Replicon does more harm, even more than Pfizer.
Wow. By the way, South Korea, according to Francis Osuna, says they're 95% injected. And they said Japan is 85%. So it's probably, wow. That's incredible. Oh, it's incredible. Wow, those are scary numbers. So the Replicon, the self-amplifying RNA shot, is clearly detrimental. And I'm glad that your social media campaign and the reporting you've done, Misako, has helped stop people from taking the shot. The work you and Michael did with Dr. Murakami was fantastic. I mean, it was earth-shattering, groundbreaking, terrifying to listen to him explain what was happening with these shots. I know. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. And the reason why we can do those kind of close analysis is because there are a lot of housewife army. They are volunteers and they go to city office in their town and get the information, raw information. That's why the scientists, doctors, and the organization I work with can do those analysis. And they are putting on their website the database open to public. So if people are interested, please, this is the first slide. Please visit the website. The organization's name is the National Coalition to Stop mRNA Vaccine. And the database is right now only in Japanese, but we are going to have a press conference in English so that more people can access to it. It will be within a couple days. And I put the link below on the screen. So if you visit, you can see the database right now. 21 million shots is in the database. And you can see each lot numbers and age group, and the number of death. So this is open to public. And so we want people, the analysts all over the world, to use this data for their studies. And here is Professor Murakami, who is leading this database and research in Japan. He's also a member of FLCCC.
FLCCC, Dr. Pierre Corey's organization.
Yes. And he did quick analysis after the database has been built. Oops. So he found out, one of the discovery he found out is that originally people are thinking that within a week or so getting injection, people likely to pass away. But because we got those massive data, it shows that after 3 to 4 months, is when more people pass away. So the number of the peak, death peak is much later than we were originally discussed. So we would be able to discover more facts that's happening. And Professor Murakami is going to announce as the research progress. Yes, and this one and this one.
Wow, that's fascinating. It's sad. It's terribly sad, but thank goodness that he is putting all this together and that you're going to be doing this press conference again, because I know you have a massive following in Japan. Like I said to our audience, you're the Joe Rogan of Japan. And, people, when you talk, people listen and they take you seriously. And I think that's reflective in some of the numbers that we saw on the previous slides, Misako, where frankly, you could see that people took a lot of the Pfizer shot, but they took very little of the replicon self-amplifying RNA, which had much worse safety data than Pfizer. Pfizer was no better roses, but that replicon shot, I think someone's at your door.
Yes.
Is someone trying to do room service or come clean your room in the hotel?
I think it's a post office.
Oh, it's supposed to.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Do you need to get the door? You can go up and get the door if you need to.
It's okay. I will call later.
Oh, okay. I know Michael is upstairs on another interview, so no worries. Your camera went bye. That's okay. We'll get you back here when looks like our camera got disconnected. Interesting. Wow. So this is pretty incredible. I look at these numbers and, I know COVID has not been a big discussionary point because we've got massive flooding going on all over the country. We're talking about weather warfare, but this is, basically massive. We have a psychological warfare going on all over the world, information war going on. We have weather war going on. We have economic war going on. We have an invasion at our border. We're having invasions. The Japanese are also under assault by mass weaponized human migration. It's not just here in our country. This is a planned attack by the New World Order going on everywhere. And, we wonder why we're not seeing mass arrests coming out of the Trump administration. Well, we're too busy worrying about Teslas getting keyed or burned or than we are to actually see mass arrests, short of the pedophiles that they have rounded up and some of the children that have been rescued, which I will never say I could never say thank you enough for doing that, because that has to be a priority. And I'm grateful for the FBI and the DOJ for going after that. But I also happen to know a lot of teams of private individuals that are former special forces and whatnot that are doing this work and have been doing it thanklessly day in and day out. Doc Pete Chambers, Remnant Ministries, Craig Sawman Sawyer's group, and there's many others out there that are doing the work in the dead of night to rescue these children. It's nice to see the government come alongside and help, but we, the people, have been doing this for a long time too, which is a reminder that we can be our own government, by the way. We don't need to wait for these boneheads, sitting in DC or in your state capital to do anything. We have the power, and Misako is showing you that right now. God gave you a brain, use it. You've got discernment. So, it'd be nice if we could, effectively listen to people like Misako giving you very black and white evidence about stuff that you don't probably want to put in your body. So, Misako, good to have you back. Thank you.
Sorry, my camera went off. Sorry for the.
No, it's all. It's no worries. It's very casual. Okay. Is there anything more you want to say about COVID? I know you have this press conference in a few days, which I think will enlighten your population more. But is there anything more you want to leave before I just shift gears? I just have a couple of economic questions for you.
Yes, there are a lot of Japanese journalists and doctor scientists who are putting frontline research. And unlike Europe, doctors here won't get arrested or taken away medical license. So we are actually more free to do research, although we are having a hard time speaking up in terms of the online censorship. So if you are interested, please reach out to Japanese doctor, scientist, journalists like him. I would love to help you connect. And yes, in Japan, we are very organized. So we have the set of data. And so if you want to know more about the harm that's been done, then Japan is the place to do the study and spread the awareness.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that. That's tremendous. I'd like to shift gears a little bit and just talk economy for a second, if we can. I actually have a clip here, a couple of clips that I wanted to just get your comment on. Let me just pull them up here and where they go. Whoops, I lost my clips. Oh, here they are. Let's see here. This is Peter Assange. He's talking about your economy. I'm going to play a little bit of it. I'm not going to play all of it. I think it's 3.5 minutes, but he is talking about your economy at some point. And as you know, you guys went to zero interest rates for like 10 years. And, we went down to darn near zero interest rates here. And now we're up higher. And President Trump is furious with the chairman of the Fed, Jerome Powell. But let's be honest, we're all in the central bank system, your country included. However, you're surrounded by BRICS countries, which are, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South America, Africa, etc. Those countries are trading with one another. And if there's a trade imbalance, they're just paying their balance off to one another in gold. So they're using gold as the great equalizer. And as you know, gold is just going up, up, up. And I believe that a lot of the sideshow we're seeing here in the U.S. is a distraction for what I consider to be the monetary great reset that's coming, whether we want it or not. But this is Peter Assange on your economy. Let's take a listen. I would just love your comment.
Japan just fired their stunningly unpopular prime minister, replacing him with a new guy who in just a few short months will be just as stunningly unpopular. Why? Because Japan has gone so far down the government spending path that its political system is no longer serving the people, it is serving the debt. In other words, they're backed into a corner of debt. Now, you may recall last June at the G7 meeting of the U.S., Canada, Japan, and a bunch of Europeans, the one where Biden wandered off and everybody followed him to cover his butt. Well, something else fun out of that G7 was the memes listing all of the leaders' approval ratings. And it was pretty bad. Joe Biden was sporting a negative 19, as in many more voters disapprove than approve. As bad as Joe was, it went downhill fast. France's Macron had a minus 31. Canada's Trudeau was negative 38. Japan was negative 40. Britain and Germany were actually below minus 50. Chlamydia probably polls better in Britain and Germany. Of course, this all begs how so-called liberal democracies got so corrupt they anoint leaders the people overwhelmingly reject. I mean, isn't that the whole point of democracy? Still, no leader is forever, even bad ones, and this week it is Japan's turn as the spectacularly unpopular Kishida stepped down in the face of approval ratings of 15%, that's 1.5. So why are Japanese upset? The immediate reason was a corruption scandal, but then pretty much everybody is corrupt in Japanese politics, suggesting the real reason is because the Japanese government has proved utterly incapable of stabilizing the economy and public finances, which is endangering the national pension system, even as taxes and debt keep mounting. To the point Japan's Uniparty is importing 800,000 unskilled laborers to prop up national pensions. I know, even Japan. So the useless Kishida had to go. Unfortunately, they swapped in a guy who's been in politics for 40 years, whose main selling point is he's a calming choice for the geriatrics who mismanaged Japan's economy. So will the new guy change anything? In short, no, because Japan's economic policy is at this point largely out of its hands. Thanks to levels of debt that are truly epic, in U.S. terms, Japan would have a national debt of over $70 trillion, rising at $1.6 trillion per year. And so Japan has become an effective debt colony. To illustrate what this has done to Japanese politics, the new guy Ishiba came in with big talk about normalizing interest rates, strengthening the yen, cutting spending, and Japan taking on more of its defense, since after all, it's a grown-up country. Alas, all of that evaporated overnight, with Ishiba sheepishly admitting it's just more of the same. Because as bad as the Japanese economy is for the people of Japan, the special interests, so Japan's banks, construction companies, and big exporters, are all perfectly comfortable with the way things are, with trillion-dollar deficits, zero interest rates that impoverish Japanese savers, and yes, with Uncle Sucker paying for Japan's defense. So what's next? Brought to you by Unchained.com. What's happening in Japan is happening across the West. We're maybe 10 or 15 years behind. And in Japan as the West, turning it around would take radical change, slashing government spending, slashing the scope and scale of government to free up entrepreneurship. Of course, given this all goes against deep-pocketed donors, in Japan as in the West, these are choices that may be necessary, but in the absence of a Trump-like disruptor, will be delayed as long as possible. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.
Misako, when I listen to him and I hear what he's talking about with Japan, I hear a lot of things that sound very familiar, frankly, to what's happening here in the States. I mean, obviously, we're not $70 trillion in debt, but it is pretty alarming because you all have been ahead of us in terms of the monetary policies. And it's as if we're trying to get there, but I don't know for my country what that's going to look like, except I look to the future. I look to Japan of what the future holds. And Japan holds a lot of U.S. treasuries. And they've been under a lot of threat by our government to not sell off these treasuries because the U.S. doesn't want to bring these dollars home because that's going to drive, it's going to bring too many dollars in and inflation, and it's going to drive the value of the dollar down. So, what is Japan saying right now in terms of its economic plan or resiliency, or are they just waiting to implode and say, screw it, we're going to just go join BRICS?
Oh, this question is very hard for me because I'm not specialized in economics. Maybe I would like to take it as my homework if it's okay.
I love that. You're so cute. Great.
But right now, actually, one of the huge topic talked about during the election, because it's election time and the voting day is the July 20th. A lot of the anti-globalism people, meaning usually I work with, they are talking about no more sales tax, eliminating the tax, and also they have a view of economy as like this. Government debt is we need to see who the government owe money to. For example, like Greece, if you owe money outside of the country, then you have to pay back to not from within your family, but outside. So it's really debt. But in Japan case, even though number-wise we have this huge debt, but we also have a lot of asset. And so like a primary balance theory, that's what Japanese government usually use, Ministry of Treasury use by using primary balance, and we have huge debt. So we need to collect more tax so we can pay for it. But what those economists, anti-globalism economists in Japan is talking about is that situation in Japan is a little different because who Japanese government owe money to is actually Japanese people.
Right.
So like, the wallet, if you, so for example, a husband and wife, if husband lend money from wife, 100 million yen, is that really a debt as a family? No, because your pocket is the same. So the economists in Japan are talking about in this sense. And so Japan, are we really a debt country, or are they using this logic to use excuses to raise more tax? That's the argument I hear a lot. And I'm just introducing you this idea because I don't have much special knowledge to analyze as a person to speak in front of people, but that's the argument. And yes, if you know anything or what you think about this.
I think it's an interesting argument. And when you look at how much, I'll just speak for the US, the amount of resources, natural resources the United States has between gold, silver, uranium, copper, oil, coal, lithium, you name the natural. We have a lot of natural resources in the ground. Some say it's somewhere between $200 to $500 trillion of natural resources in the ground. And right now our debt is bumping up to about $37 trillion. So do we have enough resources in the ground to eliminate the debt? Sure, we absolutely do. Do we want to then, and again, this is why there's been such a natural resource grab in our country, all these floods that you see happening. And I did a documentary about what happened in North Carolina. It was a big land grab, ultimately. And they're using the Defense Production Authorization Act, the Department of Defense, Department of Energy, FEMA, all these agencies which have absolutely no authority on the people because the people didn't consent to be governed by unelected bureaucrats. but the people aren't standing up and fighting back coordinatedly because they don't understand how government works anymore because they've been miseducated. But frankly, if we just said, you're not taking our land, they can't take our land to try and collateralize the debt that they've spent by sending money overseas. And what did the U.S. just agree to do today? I mean, or in the last day or two, President Trump's agreed to send more weapons to Israel, more stuff to Ukraine. I don't want that. I don't want him sending our money over there. It's as if he's allowing the banks to get another bite at the apple of fleecing American taxpayers, right? The Federal Reserve, the globalist banking cartel, similar to what Japan is a part of. And it's at your expense, at my expense. But at the end of the day, if we, the people, take ownership of our financial situation and we say we don't want the Federal Reserve anymore, we alter and abolish, well, we just stop paying the debt. We just stop paying them. And we say, you're not going to be able to collateralize the debt that you all and our government that we didn't consent generated. We're not going to give you anything out of our ground either. We're not going to allow you to collateralize that debt against our resources. The resources belong to we, the people. And that money you're spending, we never consented for you to spend. Does that make sense? So,
Yes.
I mean, I really feel that the American people, this is why I think there's such a big push for gold and crypto, is so the American people have another way to have money available. Barter is, we can do bartering as well. So you have gold, crypto, silver. And I think that is going to be, if the American people they make that shift and have their backup plan of decentralized currency, and we stop using the Federal Reserve notes and shut it down. So what if we owe those people money? We owe those banks money. Who cares? It's sort of like people who declare bankruptcy. If you have $50,000 in credit card debt and you declare bankruptcy, you don't have to pay that debt back anymore. It's just eliminated. And you get a blemish on your credit score for 7 years. And then 7 years goes by, you build your credit back up. But if you're using sound money, you don't want to be involved in credit, right? You want to have sound money because you don't want your money going into a bank, freely giving the bank your money while they monetize your money and they loan it out, a factor of, 100 to 1, essentially. They'll immediately make thousands of dollars on your $1. You put $100 in, they make $10,000 on your 100 because they loan it out, 100 times. So I think that, I think I understand your logic, because what you're saying is you really don't have debt. It's between the people of Japan. So the people of America can go, we're not going to pay that. We're not going to pay income tax anymore because I don't want my income tax funding interest on debt to go fight a war that I didn't want you fighting a war over. And that's where the American people have to get so mad that they're just going to stand up and say, go pound sand, federal government. You're not coming to take my paycheck anymore. I'm opting out and I'm out of the system. And I think we're starting to see people around the world kind of come to that same conclusion. It's a big pyramid Ponzi scheme, and it's fake. It's fake money. So,
yes, especially now, Japanese yen is so weak, and so if I have a cash in Japanese yen, then I'm going to be losing a lot.
yeah,
So I think many Japanese people started to realize that this fake monetary system benefiting the bankers who are putting one thing on the right to the left, and they make a lot of money. So this fakeness.
yeah.
Yes. But interestingly, Japanese people, we are living in a really controlled and not be able to become independent world. Meaning, for us to get gold, we have to pay sales tax too. And it's not so common for us to store in gold. And we are not educated to how important it is. Instead, we are educated to pay tax and do the what do you call due diligence as a citizen.
Yep.
And go for vote, which is also, I think, manipulated too. So yes, we Japan and US, we have a different history, So the view to the authority is of course different because
Right.
we have royal family and we didn't fight anybody to be independent. We are Japan as we existed. But
Right.
because our top is so manipulated, we need to realize that we are not living in Japan as we used to be. So
Right.
we need to change our the view of paradigm shift
Right.
to see. So I think that's what's important for us to realize.
Right. You've gone from a society where the emperor was revered, and now the emperor is more of a figurehead. And like you said, your government is got more power than the emperor, and your government is being manipulated by other powers, the bankers, and just like our country is, just like Australia is, New Zealand, Canada, all the Western, the Western civilization, Europe, the NATO countries, they're all being manipulated by the bankers. Hence, all these wars we always say are the bankers' wars. And so Japan is no different, unfortunately. But Japan has actually, I know that your country has considered joining BRICS and, dumping all the U.S. treasuries, which would be the smartest move it could probably make at this point, because it puts it egocentric, puts it centric to the Eurasian community that is already part of BRICS. The greater Asia is all BRICS. And so to have, trading partners over there it would really be quite punishing to the central banks, which are holding all of the Western countries hostage. So somebody has to break free. And we're getting, I think, close to a tipping point here in the US where that's just going to happen. I mean, it's organically happening as people convert to gold and they convert to silver and they convert to Bitcoin, which hit 118,000 today per Bitcoin. I mean, it's rock solid. And there, of course, people are getting excited about the new financial system using XRP and XLM and these other messaging platforms to replace the SWIFT banking system, which is nothing more than a messenger to let, one bank know that there's a wire coming from one bank to the next. I mean, that's it. And it takes them days to do it. It's the stupidest thing ever. So, there's some things that are going to speed it up, but decentralization is where it's at, getting away from the centralized, conformity. And I think, Japanese are smart. It's just, you're right. It's just a different culture. And so it's a bigger hurdle for the Japanese to clear right now, which is why I think it's taking you so long to get through this banking crisis, this financial crisis in Japan, because it's cultural as more than it is political. But I think slowly people are waking up to the culture is downstream from your politics. And that's where people are struggling. So, wow, Masako, incredible. I want to give you an opportunity to speak some Japanese and say something to your audience in Japanese, because I see that there's been a lot of people from Japan in the chat tonight. So I wanted to see if you wanted to say anything in Japanese special to them, because I know that they love and adore you, and that's why they're here.
OK。皆さん、日本語でちょっと視聴者の方に話をしてくださいと言われたので、今インタビューをしてくださっているのはアン・バンダースティールさんという方で、この方アメリカですごく活躍されているジャーナリストの方で、もう単なるジャーナリストではない、私がすごく尊敬している方です。スティールニュース、アン・バンダースティールという番組があります。ぜひ皆さん、今後もチェックしてください。はい。I introduced your show.
Yes. I could understand my name and Steel News, everything else. No, it's been just awesome to connect with you tonight, Masako. Thank you so much for joining me, and really thank you for all the work you're doing in Japan to really wake up, your people, because Japan is such an important part of the world economy, and the people over there are so lovely. I'm looking forward to coming and visiting. My husband and I are getting ready to do some travel to see my family who is not doing well. I told you that I've got family members who are vaccine injured. But when we conclude that, this fall, I want to come to Japan, assuming you and Michael aren't in a war zone somewhere else, running around.
Yes, and I mentioned about the CAR-T introduced by Dr. Kojima. CAR-T, that's that he's saying can be treatment for vaccine injured people. So I will share with you.
Please, and I'll share it with my audience, and of course with my family who's vaccine injured. Although I have to be honest, trying to get some of them to listen to me on this stuff, even though I've been talking about it for 4 years. I'm better at talking to people who don't know me than my own family members, because you know how that goes. They're like hard-headed. So
no, you have for your and for Anne's family, you are very privileged to have Anne in your family.
Oh, thank you, Misako. You're
Really.
Well, listen, you tell Michael I said hello. Please give him a hug for me. And I hope you guys are having a great day today. It is 9 o'clock in the morning in Japan, and it's 9 o'clock p.m. the night or before. So you guys are a day ahead of us right now, but I hope it's a beautiful day wherever you are. Oh, last question. You have a lot of chemtrails over there? Are they doing a lot of geoengineering in Japan?
Yes. I don't know if like official persons speak up in Japan, like happening in US, but people recognize about the chemtrail, and especially my father when I was in Okinawa, living in Okinawa, and more than before, way before COVID, he started to always mention, look, this straight line in the sky.
In the sky, yeah.
So we witnessed a lot of those similar chemtrail. So yes, I think that's happening in Japan too.
Wow, amazing. Well, we have a lot of it going on here, so we'll see. I was.
But it has stopped in US, right?
No, it hasn't stopped at all. It's much worse. In fact, Florida, we have a ban now that you can't geoengineer, but that's not stopping them. They're still spraying the skies. So again, this is coming from a rogue government, rogue agencies like the Department of Defense has gone completely rogue. DARPA has gone completely rogue, and they don't care that our Constitution and our state constitution affords us sovereignty of our state, and our land, air, and water are all considered our natural resources for Florida's benefit, the Floridians' benefits, our benefits. And they shouldn't be poisoning our sky without our consent. I mean, who the hell would consent to have your sky poisoned to begin with? But
can they not be arrested because Florida banned it?
Right, but the problem is we need to bring a lawsuit against them, and our organization AmericanMadeAction.org is actually working on that right now. We have a very specific way we're going to sue them, and we believe we can actually stop what they're doing. Because they don't care that we have a ban. They don't care we passed a law. They're just spraying us because they have their own statutes written in federal law, which is not applicable to we the people. Their federal law applies to them in DC and applies to the U.S. residents up there, not us. So we've got to challenge that, and we believe we have a very solid case that we're going to bring forward to challenge us and hopefully stop. And if they continue to poison us, then we can actually go after them for, treason, capital punishment. So, which includes up to the penalties of death if they keep doing it to us, because what they're doing to us is effectively killing things down here. It's not good. So, yeah, not good.
I'm very interested in what harm is done to people. And
well, let's start with the bee population. The bee population is effectively wiped out. We have the bees, the honeybees. We have a real problem with bees down here in Florida. It's actually nationwide. There's a serious bee population, and the bee population, in the grand scheme of things, in the food chain cycle, it's critical for pollinating crops. And so, I mean, last year my garden got wiped out in 2 days. Not only me, but all of my neighbors. They all lost their gardens. This year, it's been hit or miss. Certain things do well, but we're battling constant issues with different diseases on the crops that we have that we're growing in our garden. So we have to constantly battle these. We're getting way too much rain down here, more than normal. The storms are ridiculous. You don't usually get thunderstorms until the afternoon, but you'll wake up in the morning and you'll have these 50,000-foot thunderstorms in the morning. Well, the ground isn't hot enough to have a thunderstorm in the morning. It's because they're heating the atmosphere. They're using the HAARP array to heat the atmosphere and NEXRAD radar to modify signals. It's insane what they're doing. In addition to the spraying. Yep, crazy stuff. So, Misako, thank you so much. Please give a big hug to Michael for me.
Yes, I will tell him.
Okay, I appreciate you. We'll talk soon.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye. Wow, what a treat. She's a sweet, sweet young lady, just a beautiful soul. I've had the pleasure of traveling with her in Panama and parts of Central America before. And she's Michael Yon's wife. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful lady. What a great soul. Very, very intelligent woman, as you can see. I mean, I wish I could speak one word of well, I've said a couple things in Japanese, but I can't speak that language. She's just incredible. So thank you so much for spending the evening with me. It's about 9:15. I'm going to play something out here regarding the IRS and the illegitimacy of Title 26, which is the code for the IRS. You know, the 16th Amendment, that Internal Revenue Service. This is something that has been around for a while. I like to play this from time to time to remind you what your obligations are or are not when it comes to paying income taxes. Have a great night, everybody.
There is no law, and to date, nobody has been able to show that there is a law for the average American citizen working day in and day out to pay an income tax.
But We the People Foundation for Constitutional Education put a full-page ad in the USA Today on July 7th, 2000. And within the body of that ad was a $50,000 challenge for anyone that could show the law. And to me, $50,000 is a lot of money. So I went after that and did the research based on the fact that I thought, let's put this baby to bed. I'm hearing all these rumors. You know, I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. I'll answer these people's questions that are asking me, and then I'll win this $50,000. And, you know, based on the research that I did throughout the year 2000 and that I'm still doing, I have not found that law. I've asked Congress. We've asked a lot of people in the IRS commissioners, helpers. They can't answer, because if they answer, the American people are going to know that this whole thing is a fraud.
There is no law that requires the average American worker in the private sector to pay a direct unapportioned tax on their labor and compensation for services. There is no law.
I really expected that, of course there's a law that you can point to in the law book, the code that requires you to file a tax return. Of course there is. Maybe I don't know what it is right then as he was speaking to me, but sure. So naively, I agreed to go off and research it and get back to him. 3.5 months later, I was at that point where I couldn't find the statute that clearly made a person liable, at least not me and most people I know. And I had no choice in my mind except to resign.
I had to leave the IRS because I presented evidence that I had accumulated indicating that the agency was violating the law and violating people's rights. And I asked the agency for a response to my sincere concerns. And the answer I got was that they would not respond to my concerns and that they would provide me with the paperwork necessary to tender my resignation.
You can look through the statutes and look for the law that requires you to pay. And when you do that, you can't identify a law that requires the average person in America who earns a wage and works in private business to pay an income tax.
American citizens, along with the foundation, have been asking the IRS to specifically provide them with the underlying legal foundation upon which they administer and enforce the personal income tax laws in our country.
At the national level, when people would attempt to contact somebody of a much higher authority, say the commissioner, same kind of thing. They would get answers that were in effect non-answers.
You have to understand that an agency which will unlawfully impose a tax that doesn't exist is not going to care. If we, the people, don't know what our rights are, they're not going to tell us.
If Americans just learned that the IRS was actually knowingly deceiving them, that would be enough for them to rise up and put a stop to it.
100% of what is collected is absorbed solely by interest on the federal debt. All individual income tax revenues are gone before 1 nickel is spent on the services taxpayers expect from government. People have been told, that you need this income tax system to fund government, which is absolutely ridiculous. My question is, well, if that's true, how did we fund government from 1776 to 1913?
The main purpose of the income tax is not to raise revenue, but to redistribute wealth and to control society.
A lot of people might say, well, gee, if there wasn't an income tax, what would happen to education? They don't understand that education is paid for the most part, out of state and local taxes, your property tax. People might say, well, how are we going to build and maintain our highways if there's no money coming into the government? We need our highways. There is a tax on every gallon of gasoline that people buy. Proceeds from the income tax do not pay for highway construction.
I believe that in both spirit and substance, our tax system has come to be un-American. Death and taxes may be inevitable, but unjust taxes are not.
This small booklet includes the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence. This is a document that every citizen should read. It's a document which freed an entire nation. This is the Internal Revenue Code, and this document, and the unlawful application of this document by the Internal Revenue Service has enslaved the nation that this document attempted to free.
This election is filled with promises of tax cuts that will go nowhere. But don't let this excess noise blind you to what's really at stake, your retirement. As economic volatility continues to grow, few are talking about the consequence that could ripple through your retirement savings. Many wealthy investors have started preparing for the shockwave ahead. Have you? If you have $50,000 or more saved for retirement, click the link below or call 1-888-782-9064 and secure your free guide to gold IRAs from Augusta Precious Metals. Again, click the link below or call 1-888-782-9064.